Hello, I'm called Chandrakant, and I'm a part of the team that delivers the advanced Amrit yoga training. And we wanted to take a few moments to reach out and let people know what we think is a very unique opportunity in the world of yoga. It's my perspective that American yoga, as it is today, is beginning to reach its natural limitation of bodily flexibility. You've probably already seen that we have gentle yoga and easy yoga and all those kinds of yogas because many people are not, quote unquote, flexible enough to jump into yoga. And then we have many people who can touch their toes and bend over backwards and do all kinds of amazing things with their body. But both of those groups are beginning to ask themselves, is this all there is to yoga? So before I start to say too much or anything at all about the advanced Amrit yoga training, it might be helpful to shed a little bit of clarity on the word yoga. Most of us associate yoga with physical flexibility. But when we look at the messages from the ancients, from that time-tested track record, we really don't see any body of information that says that your problem is one of flexibility. It begins to lay out that your problem is an incorrect belief that you have about yourself. So yoga is not about more flexibility, more esoteric positions. Yoga solves the problem of an incorrect perception that you have about yourself, that you are somehow separate from existence, you're separate from other people, and you have a felt sense of separation from yourself. That's why yoga is described as union and not flexibility. So as we start to talk a little bit about the advanced Amrit yoga training, what would advanced mean if it doesn't mean more flexibility, more esoteric postures, more pranayams, more and more? What would that mean? Well, for some of us, we're familiar with Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and we can see that Patanjali describes in the second sutra what yoga is. The cessation, the witnessing, the stoppage of mental modifications in the mind. And all we have to do is look at our daily experience of all the stuff that goes on in mind, and gee, that would be really quite wonderful if we could just do that. But Patanjali says that's yoga, and yoga is meant to solve this incorrect knowledge that we've been holding. And what would that be like? Well, in the next sutra, he describes that if you can do that, if you can give this a rest, then the seer abides in its own nature. When you become angry, don't you think you are angry, or you say, I am angry? When you identify and take on the shape of sadness, don't you think you are sadness? You would say, I am sad. If I asked you your name, you would say, I am. The seer, being established in its own nature, is that constantly ever-present felt sense of I. And the technologies of the integrated Amrit method enables you to become anchored in that recognition, a felt sense of steadiness, so that you're not blown around by the shifting winds of emotions and thoughts and external disturbances. So we have a little understanding about yoga. We have a little bit more clarity about advanced. And so now we want to bring a little bit of that clarity to this phrase, conscious crossover. As I said, the conscious crossover is the mature expression of the integrated Amrit method. So in this advanced Amrit yoga training, we are actually changing the energetic physics of life. Where normally we start from the outside in and try to work ourselves back to some relaxation. Where energy follows your attention, we're switching the physics. By starting what you're being it for, we move from the inside out, where attention follows energy. And most of us have gone to yoga studios. We've been doing yoga for a long time, and we'll put up with almost anything, holding the pose and do almost anything to get to Shavasana. I think there's even a bumper sticker I've seen. It says, I'd rather be doing Shavasana. In the conscious crossover, we actually start where Shavasana leaves off, so that you're able to reset the energetic relationship that you have with life, starting by being what you're doing it for, rather than just waiting for the end to show up so that you can relax. So the next question might be, well, that sounds kind of interesting. Who is this for? Is this, we're seeing this as being appropriate for teachers of any lineage, tradition, or style of yoga. We're seeing this as appropriate for any dedicated practitioners of yoga. This is not for people who are not yoga teachers or don't have experience with yoga. For that, we have the posture of consciousness training. But this is for people who are beginning to realize for themselves that the yoga of the physical yoga is beginning to reach its natural limitation of physical flexibility, and is beginning to ask themselves, is there anything more to yoga? Because this training moves from physical yoga to energy yoga, but it requires you to have a foundation of understanding that physical yoga has developed in you. I'm imagining you say, okay, that might be where I am. That sounds pretty good. What's the daily schedule like? Well, first off, we're doing sadhana twice a day. I imagine you usually don't do sadhana twice a day in your own practice, even if you're a studio owner. And let me put a little bit of light on this word sadhana. Sadhana is different from practice. Sadhana is usually described as spiritual practice. Well, a practice has a beginning, a middle, and an end. But from our point of view, sadhana is to establish yourself in consciousness, that I, and consciousness has no beginning, middle, or end. This is to make your entire life a sadhana, where you continually reset and establish yourself in consciousness. And we're doing that twice a day in the experience of having to stay anchored in that consciousness while engaged in activity. Very practical to give you a experiential touchstone to make your life a sadhana. There's 2 hours every day of satsang with Yogi Amrit Desai, where he is teaching, and you can ask questions from a real yogi that has more than 50 years of experience teaching yoga from his own direct awakening. That in of itself is unique. We've limited this program to 20 students so that there's a direct contact between you and the mentors, people who have recognized how to establish themselves in this stillness that can help you personally move from energy following attention to attention following energy. Yes, we'll learn a couple of things together about postures. We'll learn a series of movements that's designed to help you gently move from the inside out to begin to take that stillness into action. And there's also a manual of articles written about correct knowledge that's very, very important for you to fuse together understanding plus experience, which equals a change in perspective about yourself. Moving from this incorrect knowledge where you've taken on the forms of mental modifications, and establishing yourself in stillness. And from my point of view, the most crucial and important benefit is to simply reflect on the quality of your life and the amount of time that you spend in doubt, confusion, stress, worry, anxiety, all of those energy eaters. Through this training, you can begin to establish yourself in stillness where life becomes spontaneous, effortless, and automatic. And from that stillness, you simply know what's appropriate to do. Wouldn't that be a wonderful way to live your life? There's also a link underneath this video that will give you the opportunity to, through experiential direct perception, take the first step to establishing yourself in consciousness. It's a link below entitled The First Key. It's an experiential and understanding video that's designed to begin to change your perspective about yourself. And finally, for any of us who have been doing yoga for a long time, 99.9% of all yoga teachers in America have never had an opportunity to study with a real yogi. You can. We hope to see you at the next advanced Amrit Yoga teacher training called the Conscious Crossover. Thank you for taking a few minutes and listening to what we feel is a very valuable contribution to you. Thank you very much.